Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to have another conversation that's based on one of your questions. So, thank you very much for continuing to ask the questions. I really do appreciate this because while we're going through the text of A Course in Miracles, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking pauses in this procession, even lengthy pauses, to address topics that you're curious about. Things that are coming up for you live are of great interest to me, and of course to you as well. And they're most likely of great interest to someone else or a whole collection of people on the other side of the world whom you're not likely to ever meet in person in this lifetime. So we have the fabulous benefit of using this communication tool, YouTube and the internet, to reach one another all over the world and influence one another's paths, to influence one another's lives and trajectories in ways that we may not even be able to imagine. Because it could be in your asking a particular question that someone really gets it, that proverbial light comes on and someone has an aha moment. Could happen at any time, and we never really know when that will be. So the question relates to the body and this apparent inhabiting the body. Yeah, so the question is, in fact, an excellent question. We are not a body, but does this mean that when we appear to enter it, that we can also appear to enter the bodies of other life forms like dogs, fish, animals, that sort of thing? Well, it's a really excellent question. And when I studied Buddhism at an earlier point in this lifetime, that question came up quite a bit. And I heard, depending on the day and depending on the teacher that was asked that question, I heard several different answers to it. And well, they ranged from a yes to it's possible to, well, does it help you to think that it does? Those kinds of things. Let's talk about it from the standpoint of A Course in Miracles. We never truly enter a body. So, no, is the answer. Because we never truly enter into a body, period, we never truly enter into this body, what we call human. We never truly enter into the body of a great white shark either, or another fish, or a dog, or an insect, or anything like that. Who we really are is not limited to a physical form. That's 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 the answer. We never enter into a body in the first place, which leaves us with a very practical centered discussion that I think is highly, highly relevant to all of us as course students, because this is where we get into the real nitty gritty of what it in fact means in day to day life to be a course student, a diligent course student who actually does A Course in Miracles, which, as we've covered in multiple videos, is where we actually really truly learn It's in putting the ideas into practice that we learn. Our experience demonstrates to us, it shows us that the ideas that we're learning about here in this course are true. In fact, this course drives home the point unequivocally that we're not a body and that we never truly enter into one at all. It drives it home unequivocally, especially in the workbook for students, where there are 20 consecutive lessons that hammer on the point over and over. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me, and you are indeed limitless. This is a limitation. What do we do with it when we appear to inhabit it? I mean, that's what we think. We think that we're confined to this thing. And then we have experiences that show us, that demonstrate to us otherwise, that that is not even, in fact, true, that we're much more, well, we're much more than that. We're unlimited, in fact. This can't limit you. You could choose to let it, but the Holy Spirit will always be talking to you, and you'll always, from now on, hear that voice saying, come on, open this book up. Don't you want to forgive the Son of God right now? You'll be happier. Yeah. The voice of our inner teacher is constant. As a practical matter, while we're running around thinking that we're a body and that we're encased in it and even prisoner in it, entrapped in it, chained up in it with all its aches and pains and all of its frailties and its lack of longevity, even if you've attained a what we call a very wonderfully ripe old age, this is fallible. Highly, clearly, it is. It breaks and it breaks down. The Son of God neither breaks nor breaks down. We find this idea as a practical matter resonant, or we wouldn't keep coming back to spirituality in general, much less A Course in Miracles or even this set of videos. This pixelated image on your screen is not the only teacher of A Course in Miracles in this world. We wouldn't keep coming back if it didn't ring true for us what this course is saying. Doesn't mean that we live our lives accordingly, though we're certainly invited to. This is a tough one in practice to gum down, especially at first. I'm not a body, huh? Of course I am. When I look in the mirror, I see what looks like a body. I can feel this. When I slap my cheek, I can feel it. Other people seem like bodies. We harm one another's bodies. What do you mean? It's not me. Well, you do know that it's not you, that there's more to it than this. This is what has us on the spiritual path to begin with. So when you're here experiencing day-to-day resistance to this idea, there are several things as a practical matter that you can do in the present moment that may be very, very helpful to you. It may be very, very helpful to you to repeat the refrain from the workbook for students. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. In the English language, that rhyming scheme is deliberate so that it sticks in our adult learners' minds. That may help. What I have found incredibly helpful, and perhaps you may find this equally helpful, is to give the body over to the Holy Spirit. Give your physical body over to your inner teacher for his purposes, for the purposes of extending love, for the purposes of healing the mind. Give it over to the Holy Spirit. Put it under his guidance, its guidance. Yeah. And allow yourself to be led. We find that one extremely difficult because we think, as individual self-sustaining survival units, so we believe here in the world, that we have to do it all ourselves. Yet A Course in Miracles points out to us the fallacy of that and the suffering that's inherent in trying to do it all by yourself. We can't guarantee anything. When we attempt to orchestrate the world on our own, when we attempt, in other words, to manipulate and control everything on our own, that inevitably blows up in our face, often right away, immediately. We're invited to give this control over to our inner teacher. And this is something that this video series repeats over and over again because, as adult learners, we find that this is something that we most need to hear because we find it so incredibly difficult. Our unwillingness to let the Holy Spirit lead is so pervasive, it's so ingrained, and it's so strong that we need these constant reminders. That's why A Course in Miracles says the same things over and over again, like any spiritual tradition, I might add. People have labeled the Course as saying the same 7 or 8 things over and over again, as if that's a bad thing. No, it's an excellent thing, because on any given day, we don't know when something's going to land. I mean, you don't. We alluded to this a few moments ago. You never know when that light is going to come on for you. And it could be the 744th time that you hear the exact same idea that you're not a body, that something just, well, clicks. Perhaps it's happening for you right now. And it's likely that you've had some such experiences. If you haven't yet, you will. It's part of the path, where boom, a light goes on and you find yourself getting something, understanding experientially. It's one thing to understand these teachings with the intellectual, rational thinking mind. The ideas are simple. You're not a body, of course not. It's another thing entirely to experience that you're not a body. Many of you have had experiences like this, where you knew that you were not limited to this body of 80% water, some bones, cartilaginous tissue, and guts. It's not the Son of God. So, another thing that you may find very, very helpful, in addition to repeating that you're not a body and giving it over to the Holy Spirit, is in fact forgiving it. We're invited to forgive anything that is not wholly joyous, and we may have rapturous moments of pleasure that we experience with this communication device, the body. It is all too often a great opportunity for us to forgive, because it is limitation. It is a limitation. Forgive it. Give it over to your inner teacher for his purposes. you may try that. In fact, in addition to forgiving what appear to be things happening outside us, things that people do, things that people say, things that we do, things that we say, those can all be rife opportunities for forgiveness. Forgive the body, forgive the world. There is no world. If you're new to A Course in Miracles, yeah, you heard that right. The central teaching of this course. Forgive, 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 forgive the world, forgive space, time, the ego, the body, all of it, in addition to your brother. Get more and more general with your forgiveness. That is something we're invited and encouraged to do here as we study and practice this course. You may find that extraordinarily helpful. So I hope that these kind of day-to-day, moment-to-moment practical tips are things that you can take and put into practice here. And that's really the point, because we don't actually enter into a body ever at any point. The Son of God is not limited at all. It's not in a body. Here in the dream, there appear to be 8 billion of these that we call human beings, plus all the other life forms, the fish, insects, birds, and our dog, you know, yeah, and everything in between, right? There appears to be multiplicity. That's an illusion. So the more that we hear that idea, the better, because the more apt we'll be to accept it, the more apt we'll be to put it into practice in our lives. And that benefits every single living thing, because there's only one mind, and your positivity, your forgiveness, your working a miracle and a set of miracles today, all of this has a tremendous ripple effect. It positively impacts each and every seeming individual. Why? There's one mind. So we're invited, strongly invited, to ask ourselves, what are we putting out there, so to speak? Because we only use the words out there in common parlance. There is nothing out there. What are you sharing? Love, forgiveness, or fear? Condemnation, blame, hatred, judgment, and fear. You may find asking yourself that question to be very, very helpful on your path. All right. So thank you very much for the question. These are excellent questions and topics for discussion. And I do hope that you found this of some practical value, which is always the point here. We can explain the words and the meaning of A Course in Miracles, the text, all we want. It's really about our doing it and putting it into practice where we really truly learn. Yeah, it does matter to be able to understand these ideas to some degree, but the real learning is in experience. Spirituality is all about experience. It's about practical application. Again, so hopefully you'll have some additional tools to put into practical application as a result today. So thank you, as always, for the questions. They're most welcome. And thank you for those of you who have recently subscribed. If you have not, please do that. I invite you to do that. The icon here in the corner of your screen is the prompt. Click that arrow. You'll be invited to subscribe and join us. And I hope that you do that. Several videos appear each week. All righty. So thank you so much. I will talk to all of you very soon.